Okay, good. So can everybody hear me? Thank
Yes.
you, Daphne.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Um, let's go ahead and start, and I'll try to field these questions as I get them. Um, I did says audio. We have Mary's struggling with internet issues. Can you see with her little? I don't know if you can see or not. No internet on top of what? Paris? So she's just using her cell phone. So we appreciate that, Mary. We hope that you can hang in there with us. I know myself, we don't have internet either. So I'm hotspotting my cell phone to give my laptop any kind of internet connection. The first thing I wanted to talk about today is to have kind of a meeting schedule. There has been a lot of confusion on, meeting. I just, at the end of last meetings, we'll get together again October 10th. And kind of got here quicker than I expected it to with everything else that's been going on. So here we are on October 10th, and I wanted to ask those of you that are here if there's a particular week, day of the week, time of the day that would work best for you as far as having a Zoom meeting. I would like to do it. I would like to do it every 3 weeks, but I know that that makes it very difficult for some people to count. Okay, how long has it been? And so the other options are afternoons usually work best for me, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I'm very open. Thursdays used to be a really good day for me. They can still work, but I have a new Thursday morning commitment that makes it kind of rush to get to this if we were to do it every like third Thursday of the month. So a couple of times that I've got, well, let me hear from you guys. Is morning or afternoon a better time for you?
Afternoon.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. And Mary.
Afternoon.
Mary Pellin, is there a particular
I'm flexible.
you? Okay, what about you? Barbara, would afternoon be best for you?
I kind of have I can be flexible. I do have some set meetings, but afternoons are fine.
Okay.
Evenings are fine.
Then is there a particular day of the week that works for you, Barbara?
Some of my Thursdays uh are Tuesdays and Thursdays can be a little tough, but I will try to work around whatever I can. Thursday mornings, first Thursdays we have DAR meeting.
Okay.
And
So
I have a fourth Thursday morning through lunch to early afternoon, long meeting.
so Thursdays are a little challenging for you.
But Thursdays at 2, I can handle.
Okay. What about Wednesdays? Would that be a good day for most people then? Thank you, Deborah. Mary Crawford also said Wednesdays would be good for her. So what about Wednesday, October 30th? Or is that too soon?
Good.
So we could do like the last Wednesday of the month. Would that work for everybody? What's a good way to remember? Barbara, you just said you've got a lot of meetings. Is it usually like the second or the first or something like that week?
I don't have scheduled meetings on Wednesdays, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays I do end up having a lot of meetings.
So it's a particular day of the meeting. Is the second Thursday of the month? Is that how you usually have it, or?
Yeah, I have a regular meeting on the third Tuesday of the month. And then the first Thursday, the fourth and fifth Thursdays, Monday evenings once a while. I can't go through all of them. But,
Let's just do the last Wednesday of each month. Does that work for everybody?
If you do the last Wednesday of each month, the next 2 months, you're going to have Thanksgiving and, well, Christmas.
Always good at remembering those things.
Which
Okay.
it's fine. You just probably won't have many people.
Because it would be
Is that
the,
last
well, Wednesday.
Wednesday? Is that last Wednesday in November, the Wednesday before
Before
Thanksgiving? Is it
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is late?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Christmas is actually
think I
on
would-
Wednesday.
I don't think I would choose that date because a lot of people now are extending
And
Thanksgiving holiday.
last
Well, you
last
could actually, you could
Wednesday,
do last Wednesday of the month and make exceptions for for November and December
yeah,
for the rest of the
'cause
year.
the last Wednesday in December is Christmas Day.
Okay, what about the third Wednesday for right now? And then we'll recoup it, around Christmas. For those of you that just joined us, we're just trying to figure out when we're going to have a consistent schedule for meetings because everybody, and I understand, kind of got caught off guard. So we're looking at the third Wednesday. Is that right for right now? Is that what everybody's kind of feeling until we get through the holidays and then we can rethink it? Which would be, our next meeting would be, what, November 20th then?
Susan, did you select 2 o'clock because that was a good time for you? I was just thinking about any individuals who might end up having lunch meetings. You know how sometimes you don't get finished till 1:30 and you have to commute somewhere. I didn't know whether pushing it a little bit late, like 2:30, or maybe
Fine.
maybe that doesn't bother maybe that doesn't affect other people.
Does anybody here have a conflict with Tuesday or Wednesday at 2 o'clock?
Can attend
Thank
because
you.
I'm on a personal leave of absence because I can't go back to work. I just got internet yesterday. I work, full time from 3:30 every day. So it makes no difference to me as long as it's recorded. I can catch the recordings later. So
Thank you, Laura.
yeah, you're
And you're
welcome.
right.
Anybody to change a schedule because of me, but yeah.
All of our schedules are a little upside down right now, so you've got a good point. It's kind of hard to have this conversation when we're but for right now, let's go.
Back to work tomorrow. I work out of Tampa, Florida, and I don't think they're gonna open the hospital tomorrow. So I think I'm out for the week.
Oh.
So let's plan now the third Wednesday of each month at 2 o'clock. Is that okay? Is that what we kind of talked about? All right.
Yeah.
Then Cindy, I'm so glad you were able to join us. Hi, Gina. Who else just joined us? Oh, Laura. Thanks, Laura. So we being Barbara and I, but Barbara, you never got it because I think your email, she may have mistyped it or something, but she said it bounced. So we got an email from Marianne Mitchell, who was with us last time that we met. And she had a couple of DNA questions. And I want you guys just to always feel like you can ask questions. That's what we're here about. We are always going to have beginners all the way through very advanced. So this is just a time to examine and learn. And because this is a DNA question, I will let you know first that South Carolina does have a DAR DNA network committee. The chair of that committee is Julia Wanamaker. And that's where DNA questions should be filtered to. But this lady did not know, and she knew that Barbara and I were here to help with genealogy, and DNA is now a part of the questions around genealogy. If you want Julia Wanamaker's telephone number and email address, you can go to the South Carolina members only webpage, or I could give them to you real quick. But she is not available. She is available. But since we already had a relationship built with Mary, and I thought we'd go ahead and help her out. And then after I said we would talk about it, she's like, oh, well, I'll listen to the recording because I'm not going to make it to the meeting. But that's fine because all of us may have questions about how does this DNA thing work? And her question was, my patriot is Robert Williams. His daughter, Marietta Delilah Ann Eliza Williams, what a name, married John Singletary. I would like to prove John Singletary's father also named John Singletary, as a new patriot. Can I use DNA to do this? We have a Revolutionary War service record for John Singletary, but we are not sure that this is the right John Singletary. So, everyone except for Barbara, because that's cheating. What are some of the first thoughts that come to your mind when you hear a question like this? Yes, what, Mary? What are you saying yes to, Mary? Yes. That is cheating if Barbara answers first.
I'm not saying a word. Not saying a word.
Okay, do you see the benefits, or do you see the question? What it is that this member is, she's already a member, and she's got a patriot, Robert Williams. She, like any of us in this Zoom call, has at least one patriot. She's looking for an additional or a supplemental patriot. And she's been able to do this work. And I went back and I looked at her record, and her line to Robert Williams goes through this John Singletary, but then it goes to his wife with that really long name. We'll just call her Marietta Williams to get to Robert Williams. So she's proven all the way to this John Singletary. Now she's saying his father is John Singletary. I've got the Revolutionary War record. I can't make a connection. Can I use DNA? That to me was such a good. Why do you say no, Kim?
How would you do that? I guess the question is no, because we don't know how, and that may be what we're learning.
Well,
Uh,
Mary Crawford, who is writing us notes here because she can't go audio, she says it has to be a direct descendant.
Yeah,
And that's right. And Mary, what she's talking about is that she's already proved her line to a man by the name of John Singletary.
right.
Right. Very good, Mary. Mary's saying it has to be a direct descendant through a male. But in this case, Mary, she's already proved herself to John Singletary. So can she use DNA for that next step to another male?
Yes. No. Maybe. Is he dead?
has Williams been proven already? Is this an existing person in the history? So if she can connect to one, and there should be a connection established to the parent. So I would say it's worth a try to loosely make that connection, but no guarantees at this point.
I think you're absolutely right, Tracy, that you should try, because it's just going on the other side of that branch, and that's always a viable place to look. But she's throwing up her hands pretty much and saying, I've done everything I can. Can I now use DNA?
So it's a DNA question, not a legacy question. Gotcha.
Right, exactly. Good point. Okay, Barbara, what do you have? What do you think? I had to look into this, so I'm calling you up, and that's
Well, the first thing that I would do, and I'm worried about saying what my memory is, but I would check the guidelines and find out if DNA is allowed for new patriots.
You hit the nail on the head right there. And Mary Crawford, you were right around that nail. I had to go in and look at the guidelines, but then I also had to look at additional guidelines that are not part of the true genealogy guidelines. I am sharing all this with you so that you all understand part of this journey. And what I found was there is a document called the DAR Policy Statement and Background using DNA evidence for DAR applications. This particular document still holds the standards, but this particular document was created in 2014. DNA within the DAR has changed considerably since then. But Mary Crawford, you were right too. We are talking about Y DNA. And Y DNA is handled differently than autosomal DNA when it comes to DAR applications.
Susan, a good question you might want to ask the group is, why could they not use autosomal DNA for this particular case?
Anybody know? I think she just asked. And it's okay. Oh, Mary Crawford's making all kinds of faces over here. Go for it, Mary.
Yeah, it's okay because the discussion and the back and forth and the sharing of information is how you learn.
That's what we're here for.
I mean, Susan has admitted that she had to look it up, and I had to admit that my memory is telling me something, but my memory is getting old, and so I use that guidelines like a Bible.
She needs to be okay. So Mary's going back to she needs to be a male direct descendant. I don't understand that next line. BCXYXS versus X. Okay. So what Mary is saying is that she remembers very well that you have to have an unpolluted, which is a terrible word to say, but it has to be a direct male line. In order to use Y DNA, you have to go down the male line only, the surname line only. And so, Mary, you were right on this one. But the other thing is that you cannot use Y DNA to prove a new patriot. So, Barbara, ding, ding, you got that one too. So, a combination of both. I gave her that answer. And then she said, she goes, okay, well, can we then go to John Singletary's father's mother's father? It's the same thing that you just said. Same thing you just said, Mary. We've got to, what's the proper word, Barbara? I call it polluted. I think it's diluted. You can't have any female chromosomes in that line. It's got to be all male chromosomes.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the autosomal, which is both male and female, but only we females can provide our autosomal for DAR at this point. Can only go up to the third. Wherever your person is, the DNA can go up 3 generations. So if it's your DNA, it can go up to your grandmother's. If you do your parents' DNA, then you've got 3 generations. If you do your grandmother's, you've got 3 generations, as far as DAR allows you.
Right. So like my mother was literally adopted from an orphanage. And those are words you don't even hear anymore. She's still with us today. In fact, she lives with me. And we're still working on her DAR application because it would open up a whole tree for me. But it's the DNA is what we're probably going to have to do. You could talk about adoption research and all that, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. Closed records here, and we burned all those records a long time ago. She's old. She doesn't, that's what they've told us. So, but you're right. If you're looking to connect a child to a patriot or a grandchild to a patriot, the Y DNA may come into play if you can prove your lineage, your DNA to a male that can go all the to one male that goes all the way back, and then you've got to have an additional male that comes from another child of that patriot. It gets a little confusing. By the time I got done with this with Marion, I was helping her look for wills and guardian records. And that's really what we should be doing first before we try DNA.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Susan, because the DNA policy states that you do everything you possibly can through a paper trail and proof documents before you even consider DNA. And I imagine the reason that they don't use it for New Patriot is New Patriot already has high standards, and DNA already is considered an analysis. And
Yes.
so it becomes a complicated application. Not only you have a complicated application as a new patriot in the standards that they expect. And then on top of that, you would be having a DNA aspect, which is considered an analysis. And that's probably why they're not letting us do it right now. I'm just guessing.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And we might sit there and not understand a lot of the policies that the DAR has, but that one, when you look at it that way, Barbara, I don't see how they could do anything different right now. You know, I mean,
If you
as
love that research and then you use DNA, do you have to submit the research where you found no answers? Like if you requested the birth certificates and they said not found, death certificates not found, do you have to submit that with the DNA analysis saying this is all the research that I've done and it's not been found?
no, you should keep a list of it in case they ask for where did you find. A lot of times that's called negative evidence, Laura, and it's very important. So as long as you could, the way I look at it is, could you find it again? Meaning, make yourself a, hi, Ivy, make yourself a, you know, a list or a source document, you know, as far as write down everywhere you've looked where you have not been able to find something,
Okay.
because they might very well say, well, why didn't you look here? Why didn't you do this?
Yeah, I've requested, to kind of branch off a little bit, but I've requested death certificates like from the early 1900s that they said would still be on file for family, and they said search was, completed and not found, and I have the certificate. So that would be adequate information, correct? That I haven't, that this is why I don't have their death
Oh,
certificate.
it's very, very important information. And I have not done a DNA analysis, although, like Susan, am involved in DNA personally. But the analysis form that we have, you have to list all the places that you have searched. And what my experience, which is limited, but is that that those statements, exhaustive statements of where you have looked and what those specific things are, helps build the analysis tremendously. Because if you don't have it, the genealogist will come back and say, well, why don't you consider doing such and such? Why don't you consider looking for a particular court record? Or why don't you consider looking for a deed? And if you can write, in fact, just before we came on, I'm working on an analysis now for our regional chair. And I have exhausted, and I am writing every single piece of negative evidence because I don't want the genie to come back to her and say, well, why didn't you check a court record of the in-law to see if by chance land was given to her and her husband and there's dower rights? So your thoughts of keeping that record is extremely important. Anything that you cannot find, and especially on those death certificates, if somebody tells you orally because you called up there, just to say, would you mind putting that in an email, or does your office allow?
I paid for it. It was $15. I have it.
But
I paid for it. I'm keeping it.
but some clerks don't want to take the time to write that out. Some states make them write it out.
Uh-huh.
So if you have a situation, because I had one last year, and I just told the applicant to call back up there and do a contemporaneous statement of the name of the person, the date, the time, who made the statement that a search had been done, in X counties, certificates of death or vital records or whatever, and none was found.
Thank
I've
you.
only had one clerk that was not, she was willing to do that, but she was not willing to write anything out. I had another clerk last fall that said that she had to check with the judge to see if she had permission to do that.
I think it depends on the state too.
Yep.
It does.
In the counties, yep.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so the other thing I promised to talk about, and there was at least one person here in our Zoom meeting that was like, I really need that, so thank you, was organization. Unless there are any other questions that fit the DNA topic that we're talking about, I'd like to go on to that. So everybody's got their own way of doing things. I know that I interact with some very strong registrars that still think that they need to have that paper. They want to touch that piece of paper, or else they don't feel like they're doing research. They don't feel like they're completing the application work. Since the paper has to be submitted anyway, it's that piece of paper that's important to them. My way of doing things is a lot more electronic, and then I print everything out when it's time for it to go to national. So I'm going to take you through just a little bit of a tour of how I do things. And by all means, I want you to ask questions. It's going to be a little klutzy because we had a little bit of a flood today. And so with everything else that's been going on, you know, you don't wait till the last minute to do anything. So I had to go, you know, get all the water out of the basement. And but this application is one that I worked on. I asked the applicant, who is now a member, if it would be all right if we shared her information. And she said, don't even worry about redacting. I don't have anything to hide. And we've got a great application. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see, I want 3. And what you're looking at is that form that I sent everybody. Do you remember seeing it? But this is the way my form looks as I'm filling it out. I've got my own naming structure, and that is I put the number for the generation in the first character column or the first character space, and then a dash, and then the document name is the first letter of the first name, first letter of the second name, and then their surname, and then just real quick abbreviations. So like the first document that I've got is for Karen Lynn Carlin, and it's her birth certificate. I can see that because it's K.L. Carlin's birth certificate. That is the name of the file that I have in my computer. I scan everything or I just download it electronically. Each one of these you can see, this is LT, or over here you can see Leonard Thomas Carlin's death certificate. That shared his birth date and birthplace, but his obit also shared his birthplace, but not his birth date. And so as I collect these documents, I can put them down. And a lot of times we'll see that lineage link. This particular worksheet is so very important to me for this right here, this lineage link. I know I have to fill that out. What is it that I have that's going to prove this next generation as we go closer and closer to the Patriot? Now, of course, birth certificates, obits, death certificates, those are easy to come up with for abbreviations. But when you get to census records, you can come up with a quick little abbreviation like I did here for the 5th generation for Nathaniel Bolin for the 1900 census. That gave his approximate date of birth, but then there was also a delayed birth certificate for A. Bolin. Now, A. Bolin did not actually hit this. It was his daughter, which was not Donnie, but another daughter that showed where her parents were born and when they died, that sort of stuff, that kind of information. We've also got cemetery records, and because he was buried in that location. And then we get down here to all this. I don't always put DARGRS, but I do always put down the number of the patriot, which always starts with an A, and then the number of the member. I decide to put an M in front of or an N, depending. So right there, I show that Karen tied into the patriot line that led her to Abraham Peacock. I start this little naming convention game right away because I download the form that I sent you, and the first thing I do is I name it. Can you guys see this up here? I don't know if that's in your screen vision or not.
Mhm.
And I named it Hendricks because her last name is Hendricks, and this worksheet's going to take me from Hendricks to Peacock, and that's the name of her patriot. So now I'm going to jump over here to a different screen and show you my file structure. Okay. This is the way that I save everything. I wish I could see you guys. feel like I'm just talking to the computer. Because I can't tell if Mary Crawford is waving at me or not. Okay. So do you see those documents that I just talked about? How I've scanned them in, and they are listed as documents in my computer by that same name. Now, I don't usually do this until I'm about ready to submit it, but I go back to those same digital documents because they've been scanned. And that's when I do the underlining on my computer to where I don't feel like I'm making a warbly mess. And I do that for each and every one of them, which helps me check everything before, back on the application worksheet before I actually put it on the application. Okay. Since I couldn't see if anybody was waving or looking confused or anything like that, I can show you any of those screens again and we can go into it in more detail, but I'd like to know if you have any questions.
Do you do your redlining? Do you do your redlining with Adobe or a different program?
I do it in a variety of programs depending upon the format of the document that I've got. And that's just a personal preference. You can do it in Word. So you don't have, I have the full-blown version of Adobe Acrobat. I have that for business purposes outside of DAR. And so the business purposes pays for it and allows me to use it. It's an amazing tool. I love it very much. I also have Photoshop. So there's times that I need to tweak a picture by making it a little bit more contrast or something like that. And if I'm in there, I'll just go ahead and redline it. Word does a great job though, Barbara.
Okay, that's somebody else had suggested that. So I
Deborah, what was your?
tried a little bit. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so in your notations, your abbreviations, what are you using for PR? What is that reference?
Let me go look here under PR. Probably probate record.
Okay.
Which, if I was to say probate record, that means there was a file within the probate record that was not the will, because will's easy enough to use as far as a, quick naming convention. To me, it seems very easy to use it this way. I worry about, seriously, I have talked to people that have lost their file and the genies needed more information. I'm like, how do you, if you have it all electronically and if you scan it, then you've got it there. And believe me, in my research, you don't always know which patriot you're going to line up with. You're researching, and so you put those feelers out there. And there's a lot of times I will have folders saying, okay, well, this will take me to Peacock, but this might take me to Wilson. And I will use one of these worksheets for each one of those that I'm working on, because it helps me understand, did I make that lineage link? And that is ultimately important. Without that,
Yeah, I've always used that, but I've never put it on the computer like that. I love that. I give that to everyone, and that I explain, this is how you have to show each, but now that you showed me how to save all the scans and type it in, I just saw that when I took your download and looked at it again, and you can type into it. I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
the new one that I just sent you, there were some places in the old one that you couldn't type in. And it drove me crazy. So since I've got the full-blown Adobe, I would go through and tweak it.
Yeah.
They've tweaked it. This one's great.
You could lose the whole file and you've got everything you need. Yep.
Yeah, I really like it. But I'm sure you guys have got other organizational skills that we lost Mary Crawford, and she's the one that said she needed the organizational skills. Where did she go? I'm looking at the screen going, Mary Crawford. What other organizational skills do you guys feel very comfortable with that you would like to share in this? Barbara, what's your favorite organizational skill you'd like to share?
Copying, Susan.
What?
Copying, Susan. No,
You do things differently and you do things very well. So, I mean, is there a tool that you can talk about that you have?
well, I'm trying really hard to do a variety of both paper and electronic. I think I've only had one young applicant want to do the electronic, application, and that ended up not working out at all. Most of the ones that I deal with in my own chapter, still want to do paper. But personally, I'm trying to do more electronic. But I take it's the DARs, that same form. And a long time ago, it was small, and like you said, you couldn't type in it. And I think there was a period of time when you typed in it, the letters got smaller and smaller and smaller. And it just drove me up a wall. So I created 3 sheets of the 3 generations and made my own little packet of 3 sheets. And I would give those to prospective members and have them fill out as much as they could. And then I would have my own and fill it out essentially like you do, having my own codes for the farthest column, the right column, have codes of what the document is, and would put the member DAR members number, if I was going from, say, 3rd generation to an already verified application, tying in, or maybe I'm going to tie in at the 6th generation, and did that. And I also use pedigree charts a lot of times.
Okay.
And I use both electronic and handwritten ones. I guess it's just a matter of, like you said, your experiences. I use those 2 charts, the pedigree chart and the chart you showed, almost all the time. And I am doing a lot of scanning of documents, especially since we're having to learn to use the doc system. And if we have to send, this is another thing too, Susan, if you or I have to send documents up to get more help, as we go up the ladder, they really want it in that Google Doc. And so you've got to have your documents scanned and electronically organized. And so I know you're probably a whiz with that, and I'm learning.
I haven't really played with Google Docs that much. So I'm not saying I'm a whiz. I come from the computer industry, so it's like I don't have a problem with it. I'm actually looking forward to more opportunities to use Google Docs, but not under pressure. I'd like to.
Yeah, so I think it is important to personally, as a registrar, start getting involved in the electronic aspect of organization, because, for example, if we had to send one up, me to lineage research chair and you to the volunteer genealogist program, if we had to send an application up to get more help, we're supposed to send it up through Google Docs, which requires that you have your documentation and your files already electronically taken care of.
And that's the one thing my heart breaks when I hear about anybody that's having to go through their files and they can't find that one file or that one document, and they know it's there, but it's not. Yeah, I see. I see.
I'm looking at it. I've got a huge box over here, and I'm thinking it may need to go up the ladder, and I may need to scan all of those. Well, not all, but the documents that are necessary. So that tells me right now what I need to work on, and that will also streamline that box as well, and get rid of some of the stuff that we might need this, but we don't.
Well, the other thing is, as we're doing research anymore, the majority of research that even I do is done electronically. Yes, we're going to write some letters. Yes, we're going to make some phone calls, emails, boots on the ground, going through libraries and archives. But the majority of it is still at home, and that's what we are comfortable with. It's just so easy to download that document, give it that same file name right away, and you can print it out, but you don't need to unless, now, I'm not saying I'm this big conservation buzz and I don't want to kill a lot of trees. I am the worst. You should see how many papers I throw away after a meeting. I'm the regent of my chapter, and I take probably 2 truckloads of papers, it feels like, to meetings that I don't end up giving out as much as I'd like to. So at the same time, because I have this fetish with paper, I am a little bit overwhelmed with it many times. So I try to streamline it. The one time that I need to print things out is when I go through and I check an application. I have to touch paper at that time. I've got to be able to say, and if you guys want me to review an application, a supplemental application that you want to submit, by all means, I love doing that. So just send, let me know and we'll work it out. But at that point, I'm killing a tree because I want to print out everything you sent me and I want to mark it and I want to circle it and but it's just easier as I'm collecting things, as I'm downloading them from FamilySearch or Ancestry or wherever, to just put them in the file where they belong. So that's me.
Yeah, I'm with you, Susan, on when it comes to the proofreading now with all the pressure that we are having, and also having been told as well as experienced that sometimes there are electronic glitches in our building applications.
Mhm.
And sometimes what you see on your screen is not what gets printed. Things will jump from one generation to another. So you think it's right on your screen.
Right.
Sometimes you need to, print it out.
Now, if we were submitting electronically and I'm not comfortable with e-apps, honestly, Barbara, I'm not comfortable with the way that the system shows them to us either. They're ugly as all get out,
I don't care for them.
Yeah. But because I'm not submitting it electronically, I want to look at what we're submitting, back to printing it out beforehand.
Right. And one other thing too, I think if you're working with an applicant, the approach you take may have a lot to do with how easy it is for that individual.
Sure.
In other words, what you do on your own to record that information may be totally different. I've had a couple of applicants that cannot read a pedigree chart just because they've never experienced it. And I've had others who can't handle this chart that you and I love, that you do electronically and I do by, paper, sometimes electronically. They start filling in all the generations of all the, you end up with 8 great grandparents because they don't understand how to go from the generations. So
That's a perfect segue since, us here in the Volunteer Genealogist Committee, we're typically dealing with just our own supplemental applications is our focus typically. And what I'm saying is we're members, we're not registrars. And so while we're doing that, I have got 4 basic family trees. Actually, I've got 6 basic family trees because I don't start with myself or my parents. My grandparents all have their own family tree. So with my mother being adopted from an orphanage, she gets 2 sets of trees, Now, so when you go to my ancestry.com family trees, you will see that each one of my grandparents' family is where I've started with those. It's just another way of looking at it. Again, Barbara, I don't know that it's right or it's wrong. It's just a level of how people look at things and what they see. Went to a class at the university this week, and it was pretty much only on the beginning of FamilySearch. Are you guys familiar with FamilySearch? Okay, have you sort of?
Yeah.
This is not. It's one of the reasons I love being impromptu. I didn't mean to be, but I'm going to blame the basement. I even told my son today, I was like, well, now I don't have to be underprepared. I can just be impromptu for the meeting because we spent hours cleaning that basement. I'm going to take you over here to FamilySearch. Barbara, I'm getting there. I know that it sounds like this is really a bunny trail, but there are tools.
Bunny trails are good.
Oh, good.
The trails are good. We
Let's-
learn from them.
Let's play bunny rabbits here, hopping through the trails. I- They taught some other tools in FamilySearch, and I'm going to take a little bit of a long trail because we've got a little bit of time here to show you. If I can see which, kind of what they said, sharing. Some things that I learned. I love it when you take a beginner class. I have played with FamilySearch for decades, and I like it when you take a beginner's class and then you see something that you never knew before. So I'm already logged in to FamilySearch, and there is the family tree, FamilySearch family tree. Let's just go to the tree. So can you see this, or do I need to increase it, Barbara? You look here. Okay, so this is my husband and I. I'm gonna take it over here to get him out of the picture. He doesn't belong there. So this is pretty much focusing on my father's line, Bobby Ray Davis and all that. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do some research on Opal Maureen Betterton, who is my grandmother. I'm looking at that pedigree chart that Barbara was talking about that some people really like. There's other ways to get to Opal than this, but I clicked on her. Now I've got her listing here, and so I could just go to her. Again, Barbara, talking about the way that people look at things and what they like. This is what I usually play with within FamilySearch family tree, where it's, I guess, more like a family group sheet. It shows my grandparents, her parents, because she's the one highlighted here, and then her siblings, her children, her second husband, and then just vitals. Now I've got mine laid out a little bit different, Barbara, because usually vitals are at the top, but there's ways that you can rearrange your screen, and I've done that. This is what I never looked at. I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought it was an advertisement, and I should know better than to think that a free application as open as FamilySearch is would have advertisements. Right here within search records, you can click to search using the criteria that you've built on that page for anything else they may have in FamilySearch for the person that you're at. And so, just at a glance, I can tell you these things, the first three right here are her, this one not, or this, but it might be worth my time to go there and do some exploring. Now you can imagine we're looking at my grandmother, but you can take this back several generations and do the same thing. See, I want to go back to her page. The other thing, if I can find it. So you can also use the criteria that you've got built here for whoever you're looking at, meaning using all of these vitals here that you've got built in there. And you can go to Ancestry right from here. And forgive me because my hotspot gets pretty loaded if I've got a lot of stuff open, and I do. And so right here, we've got within Ancestry hits for my grandmother also.
But you get to go to that only if you have a subscription to Ancestry, correct, Susan?
I believe so, Barbara.
Okay.
Good. And then I don't know if it's because I'm logged into Ancestry like all the time. But it never asked for my credentials.
Yeah, it's
You think-
probably because you're logged in.
And I think you can access that if you're at a family history library.
Correct.
All those things on the side, the search results, you can access at the library.
That is
They have
correct.
subscriptions to all of those things.
But
See, I don't have a subscription to find my past IV, so let's try it and see what happens. Go ahead, Barbara, what?
I understood that your you can access that because you have put a family tree into FamilySearch.org.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
They do tell you you've got results. of what
Yep.
they-
Yeah, they tell you have results.
Interesting.
so
Okay.
it took all the stuff that I have on this person, Opal Maureen Betterton, all of the information that we have on her, and it searched Find My Past. I do not have a subscription to Find My Past, but it does say that there are 2 results in Find My Past for Opal Maureen Betterton.
So that might prompt you to go to the library. Yeah, but you got
Yeah.
a lot of records, so you're good.
Well,
Yeah.
and the same sort of stuff on why it's kind of nice to deal with somebody I'm safe with, with my grandmother, is I'll know right away if it's. And my heritage, I do not have a subscription to, and it's found a lot of stuff. It's found other trees, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's got her picture, that's her baby picture. So, and again, I don't even know what fillet, has everyone heard of that? But it will also let me search Google. It says. So the one thing that FamilySearch also said, I didn't think so. The one thing that FamilySearch also said is for Opal Maureen Better. My goodness, I'm so sorry, guys. I should turn my phone off. Is that for women especially, here where there are names to put in. So I've only got her maiden name because that's what we're used to. But to put additional, also known as, for their married names. So I should put a name in also known as Opal Maureen Davis. I should also put in Opal Maureen Freestone, who she married after my grandfather passed away. And they said that there's a good chance that there are records created under those married names. And so that gives your search more power. The other thing, where is it? I'm used to doing this on my phone. I play around with this on my phone. But there is a place to look at charts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
If anybody sees it, just tell me.
I think it's up at the top. Let's see. Or hit view tree. And then you can get a chart.
Oh, timeline.
Okay, then you have to go if you want to do like a circle chart. Let's see how I can't remember how you do that, but
That's what I'm looking for, Ivy. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, like a fan chart. I love
Right.
this is what I give people these. I pulled my family tree up since you're talking about this. So let's see.
Click on landscape.
Go to view tree, and then up at the top,
There you go.
There it is.
it'll tell you. Oh, I can't. Because
So I'm pulling up the fan chart now. I don't know.
yeah,
Thank you, Kim.
I love that because it actually the color coded as well.
So it's color coded for the lines,
Yeah.
but then there's also
So if
Okay.
somebody's question, yeah, you can go right to the edge and say, well, these are all that time frame, and so let's start from there.
well, the other thing it's got is how many sources substantiate the facts that are,
To yes,
and so you can see how many sources here. The one I really liked, I think it's this one.
I've never seen that
This
fan chart
one.
before. That's awesome.
Isn't this awesome? I'd never seen this before either. Data problems, record hits, or research suggestions. So by going to this beautiful fan chart and by going to research helps, I can start clicking around to all of these. These are my direct ancestors. And see where I can get some suggestions on how to do cleaner research or additional documentation. That to me was worth a beginner's class because that I had never heard of anything like this. Let's see, this might make it a little bit easier to see, but you can increase it. But so, I mean, evidently there's all kinds of, I've looked at it going, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with fan charts, but to see, oh my goodness, United States, I would like to have it a little bit more detailed. But I guess it says that we don't know where William Miles Bramlett is born. It's kind of nice to see that.
Wonder,
Source.
wonder, Susan, if those same items that are being put on the fan chart are also put in a different system rather than a fan chart.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the same information. It's just the way that it shows it. It's the same information that's in this chart.
Okay, that's what I want to know, because this is just sort of interesting. See, I'm not a fan chart. It doesn't help me. I just don't respond to it.
I
And that's,
totally hear you on that, but Barbara, I
But I-
might become one after that. That was cool.
well, but that's why I was asking whether if the same information on the fan chart is on the pedigree, and it's probably because of my own personal experience, because I can remember pedigree charts in my brain. You know,
It is
that's just
exactly,
me.
it is exactly the same. However, okay, so we're looking at the same family, Opal Marine Betterton's family,
Mhm.
and I can even bring it out a little bit more as far as generationally, to where some of these names you should have seen on there. There's William Bramlett that we don't have a birthplace. Okay, so there's your pedigree chart, Barbara. That's awesome, and that helps. But let me show you this. This is what really blew my mind. On this fan chart, same people, okay? But now being able to see, oh, where'd it go? Okay, there's the fan chart. Oh, I'm gonna go crazy, guys. How come it's not there? Remember, we were looking at the different types of fan charts.
So yeah, and so
Go to your filters, the next button over, next button to, that looks like, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
and you don't see the pictures. Oh, you can choose to see the pictures though. Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one that really blows me away, Barbara. You know, I mean, you can't get that with the pedigree chart.
That's what I was asking. That's what I was trying to ask, whether
It's
these items that you like on the fan chart are also on the pedigree chart. See, I don't put, it's a personal thing. I do not put any information on FamilySearch. I don't put any trees on FamilySearch.
And that's fine. I mean, it's only one big tree anyway. It's not, you know, nobody owns it. It's a total collaboration tool. Everybody's got their own feelings about it.
I'm just asking because if the pedigree chart, the pedigree chart had the same thing as the fan chart, then I would go to the pedigree chart. But I think what
don't,
you're saying
all right, let's
is
go
that
back
there's
to
something different. Because somebody else might have a chart up there.
now that Tracy said to look up here. Let's see. Looks like all of this shows. It says that record hints.
yeah.
Okay, so research suggestions are showing here, this little
Okay.
directional sign. Where was,
Well, the reason I was asking Susan is, let's say I'm working on a case and there is a tree in FamilySearch. I would be willing, I would use it.
Raymond
well,
Roy Davis has the record hint next to it. So yeah, they're there.
yeah, they are. I didn't know that either, you guys.
I tell people it's like a wiki tree because again, a lot of people do not like to use it because they don't want to put everything out there. But it is a one tree and it's just like a wiki. People can change it, which can be very frustrating. So
I really like it when you go to help someone else, because a lot of
Yeah.
times you can find some amazing stuff out there. And I don't know. See, now I'm challenged. What's wrong with my aunt and uncle? I thought their data looked good. So that's good to know. And Barbara, that definitely answers your question right there.
Well, I think that
Also-
I appreciate
Oh,
it because
Wait a minute. I gotta go. There's a record hit for my James Wilson Davis. It's a hint. I gotta go. This guy is my brick wall.
oh,
And
God.
this is my great grandfather, so my great great grandfather. So I'm
I think you should
excited
click-
if there's
I think you should click on it. I think you should click on it.
clicked on it. Okay, let's show all 6 of them. Yeah, hello. No data problems. Okay, we don't have any data problems, but we've got record hints. So the numbident Social Security numerical identification file. That's interesting. Oh, okay. So these are for his children, Sterling, William,
Yeah.
marriage, his second marriage, I think it was to Julia. Marriage there to Viola. Wow, all kinds of marriage records. But he was married 3 times. Where the other two? Or is this just one? So it looks like there's stuff. I think I've already got that known. But it's definitely something that when I'm not on camera, I will go back and look at and see just what all interesting information it has for it. It also showed for Viola Stock. Okay, so remember his children that it showed in the Social Security numerical identification files. And so, of course, 2 of those are there, and then their marriage records. So good to know. That's an easy way to find out some more information. And right now I've got them all turned on, Barbara, as far as record hints, research suggestions, and data problems. And it's funny because I do not use a pedigree chart, and now I will start looking at it because this is
See, it's funny. See, when you start looking at different ways of how processes work and in your brain,
Right.
it's good to be, because I know a couple of people have brought me the fan charts and I go, oh boy. But I look at them and because I realize that's something that's speaking to them. That person chose to bring a fan chart rather than a regular pedigree chart. And so I think it's really important to understand the different processes and to know what you do have available and to at least have a sense of how they work.
well, and what I'm getting out of all of this is not to be locked into one way. I mean, because I was, and look at how, oh wow, there's this whole system right here in front of me. And that's what I was saying to you, Barbara, is yes, we have different systems that work for us, but sometimes if we get out of our own comfort box, we'll say, wow, there's a whole world here that I didn't even consider before because I wasn't looking. And that's where I'm at right now on all this with FamilySearch. So what would you guys like to talk about for our next meeting? What is it? What kind of questions do you have? Or what I would really, first, before we go there, let me just put a plug in. You guys are all showing an interest in genealogy. And I strongly encourage and urge you and beg you to take the genealogy courses. I really do. Now, Kim cannot take any more until she becomes registrar. She has taken, there is one class set aside for registrars only, but it's free. And there is absolutely no reason a registrar should not take that class. It's amazing. They've consolidated everything into this one free course for registrars. So Kim has taken 7 courses and she's still missing that one. And she's going to be our next regent. So I don't know when she's don't know when she's going to get a chance to take that class because you can't take it unless you're registrar.
Do you
The other ones,
class has a lot of good information. We don't have any people right now that are coming forward with DNA stuff, and I'm afraid I won't retain the information. That's the only one in the registrar one I haven't taken. Do you find that that's worth it right now if you really don't have anybody bringing forward DNA stuff yet?
well, I would personally say it's worth it for a couple of things. I have taken the DNA class twice. When it first came out, it was between 2014 and 2014, and I took it at that time. And then they changed everything as far as accepting autosomal DNA, and I was allowed to take it again. And I've never used it. I've got a personal interest in it, of course, but I've served 2 terms as registrar, and nobody's ever wanted it. But when this one lady asked this question today, I knew that there was an answer and I knew that there was something that I could find about it. And Laura, I don't think I would have even known where to start without taking that course.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only one in registrar. I'm not obviously the registrar for our chapter.
Right.
So, all right, well, in my spare time.
Well, we are, if you have not heard yet, the Volunteer Genealogist Committee is having a contest throughout this year on how many GEP courses are taken. And there will be prizes given. I've interacted with Find My Past, Legacy Family Tree webinars. There's been just a lot of Ancestry would not give away anything. Okay. But a lot of the other big companies have given away some very nice subscriptions and stuff like that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, sure. And what I'm saying to you, Laura, is maybe you can interact with some of the other members in your chapter and encourage them. The contest is going to be not for the people, but for the chapters.
Okay.
So that way, you know, and it would be a chapter in each size category, because it's not right to run somebody in a chapter like Rebecca Mott, 350 people against as a queen that's 15 people. You know, that just
Yeah, you got to do it by size. Gotcha.
right. Yeah, when we're dealing with chapters in the contest. So I will put a plug in for that. And again, with those courses
Was it like June 1st or September 1st?
for the when it's over
Yeah, when did it start?
at the fall forum.
Yeah, I already did them all before the fall forum.
Yeah.
Bad timing.
I know. So did Kim. Same with Kim.
Fine, that's fine. Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate your time.
Sure. But then these Zoom calls can very much be used for if you have a question about any of the GEP classes, it might be a question that the other volunteer genealogists have as well and would like to know the answer to. So, or don't have because, you know, they took the course a long time ago and they don't care. And then they're like, oh, I do remember that was kind of something I wanted to know more about. Yeah. But with that in mind, are there topics that you guys are challenged with that you would like some more input about? What's that, Deborah?
Roadblocks.
Brick
How to
walls?
get past brick walls. Yeah, brick walls. How to get past those.
Okay, you want to send me a little bit of information on your brick wall, and maybe we'll kind of highlight that in the next Zoom. We'll see about that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Like we did for Marion today and the DNA question. You know, I mean, we could just take a couple of minutes and maybe, you know, it might be like, oh, I've got one too, Deborah. I really do. I just showed you my James Wilson Davis to his father, John Davis. Please, I'd rather have John Doe. You know,
Susan?
It's out there. I'm relatively new to doing all of this. And I know like the birth certificate and death certificate and marriage certificate, they're like the cream of the crop. But kind of
Sure.
if there was a resource out there, like, okay, what would be the next best accepted? Like what, you know, kind of like the order of what you should look for next. And I know the analysis is always last.
Yes.
I know that. But if there was some kind of, and I've taken all the GEP classes, but they've never kind of just like visually organized. Like if you can't find this, use these. If you can't, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like a puzzle.
do.
Yeah.
So you're not chasing your tail. So
Well, and you know, your first question, Laura, was that you're looking for a death certificate for like the early 1900s, and that's a hit and miss a lot of times. You know, the
like
DNA.
Alabama, and even though it fell within that time frame, then it should be there. It's not there because it's very
Well, there was a big push. I love the history of vital records. I gave a lecture on that, and it's amazing the history of why we have vital records. Our babies were dying, let's put it that way. That's a large reason. We wanted to find out what the heck was going on. And we started and stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped with vital records until the early 1900s. And we didn't come into compliance until about 1918. And it depends. Some states were 1920s, some were 1880s, you know, but there was always an attempt.
Right. So anyway, and I'm sure it's out there, or if I can dig down through it, I could probably make one, but if somebody already had one that they could share, that would be helpful.
Susan,
Yeah, Barbara.
if, her question is just so important because the vast amount of inquiries that I get, of course, are brick walls or an error that's come back and they don't know what else to look for. And one of the most important things, at least in my mind, when you're doing research, is to be able to know all the different sources that DAR recognizes as usable when you can't find the standard one. And in the birth records, in the marriage records, in the death records, but even beyond that, learning about what deeds can provide for you and what court records can provide for you. And it's a matter of learning about all the different kinds of sources. And not just the sources that DAR uses, but just sources in genealogy, because a lot of that is the heart of the research, is knowing, okay, I'm stuck here. What do I do next?
Well, and for Deborah's question about her brick wall, I don't know that we'll be able to come up with an answer for it, but we can talk about it. And by being able to talk with one another about, this is the challenge I have, do you have a suggestion? All of us gain from that. All of us learn from that.
Mhm.
So I like the question, Deborah, and Laura's, yours too, because I will tell you right now, when it comes to genealogy, there will never be a one glove fits all. And that's one of the things that's exciting about it. That's what makes us all individuals and unique. But yes, we can learn that there is more tools that need to be in the toolbox. And that just helps all of us. I mean, I'm learning every day, like this great hit with FamilySearch, like, wow, here's something I didn't know that's available. It's a different way of looking at things and finding stuff. So, well, I'm not going to make us sit through 2 hours, especially with everything that we've had going on lately. But are there other questions? Deborah, do you have another question? Deborah, do you have another question? Okay. What, Barbara?
I'm sorry. I wanted to share something with you, a question that came to our state registrar and to me, and our state registrar, Allison Strange, contacted Cindy Parnell directly, and this would probably be just helpful to know. The question was, would DAR ever accept a stamp for different signatures for the application? And Allison Strange and I both thought, nope, they're not going to do that. They're not doing it right now. But Allison did contact Cindy Parnell, and the answer is no, the signature must be the original signature. So I'm just sharing that because it's information that has been a question that was addressed.
Whose signature are you talking about? The
registrar, the regent,
okay.
if people are still doing endorsements, which, we're going to lose that part of the application
Right.
soon. Or
I
sometime.
will share that since Barbara opened up that nut. Let's just crack it. And that is the application forms are going to be changing. Have they changed yet, Barbara?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't know when they're going to change, but they're going to change.
Barbara and I heard back in May that they were going to be changing the application form. And at the bottom right now, it's got endorsers, two endorsers, which most chapters don't use anymore as far as, over vetting an incoming member. But now what they're going to change that section to is who has reviewed this application. With that in mind, I will encourage each of you you're probably known in your chapter as somebody that enjoys genealogy, to put your hand up and say, you would be glad to review somebody else's work. You would like somebody to review your work. I have learned more by doing that than probably any class I've taken or any conference I've been to. By seeing what other people have done and knowing what's supposed to be on the DAR form, and you can look at examples of good and bad forms in the genealogical guidelines, and then seeing if my friend did it right. And if she didn't, how can I lovingly tell her, you overlooked this or you spelled this name wrong, And so you get a little people skill exercise in there too, but then you also see how easy it is for the most detail-minded to make an easy mistake, and that makes us more aware of ourselves too. It's just a really good exercise, and it's going to be a thing where they're going to be looking for at least 2 reviewers for applications, supplemental or new, that go into the DM.
I love it.
Well, But we've got to have people we've got to get people trained to be able, they've got to understand what to look for in the application. And the whole point of this is they want to try to make the applications better and not have so many mistakes. But the people that are reviewing have got to be able to understand what if it's right or not.
Yeah, just even like careless mistakes, honestly. But you're right, they do need to know the abbreviations are right, because certain abbreviations with the AR have to be just so. So yeah, but
And
good.
and the citations.
Train them. Train them.
With some of the
Well, that'd be a good class for chapters. We can have a review application, and people will learn. Very good. Yep, I like that.
I plan to take some of the classes, but does the class go over the sound X and the spelling of names? Because my maiden name is McLean and it's spelled every way you can possibly phonetically imagine it. So on one document it could be the same person, but not spelled exactly the same way. Is that a SIC feature, or how do you acknowledge it's the same person but spelled differently?
Tracy, you're not alone, honey, and the DAR is very aware of that. This is
Okay, cool.
it's been going on throughout history. We now today, when you go up to someone and they start putting your name down, they ask you how to spell it. That's not the way it used to be. And so if you
Well,
start
people didn't know how to spell. They
Exactly.
didn't know how to read.
The DAR has got their own naming convention, meaning if you have if you're looking in the database, the GRS database, and I did it with this John Singletary. Singletary is spelled several different ways. And so if you don't find it the first time, try a different spelling. But they might spell it completely different than you do. But you could go in and look within the DAR guideline, the genealogical guidelines, and they will tell you they've got their own catalog on how they use
I
the
just need to
spelling.
get into the classes, I guess, and see what happens.
I think all of us learn a lot with those, Tracy. Yeah.
And I've had cases where I've had records that had different spellings, and I would just write both of the spellings separated by a comma. And they don't ever, I guess they like that, but supposed to write what's on the record. So, it might not be how I even spell it, but it's what the record says. So,
And Ivy, what you're talking about is having different spellings within the same document.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Put it all in there. Yep.
This application I shared with you for Karen Hendricks, she was very concerned because of the same sort of thing. And it was early, closer to her, like her grandmother or somebody that had a variant name, or what I'm saying is different spellings. On her, I think it was her death certificate and her marriage certificate, her names were completely different. And she was like, they'll never know, they'll never figure it out. They never hiccuped. So, I mean, there are times that we have to prove, like when Opal Freestone's death certificate didn't have a lot of information on it. I had to show that she was actually first married to Raymond Betterton, who is my grandfather. So I mean, there are times like that also that you have to make sense of it. But Davis and Freestone are so very different that it would be impossible to use that in the same document.